this third lesson was a lesson that I learned after thinking that I had been red pilled, and I fell into a trap. So this is one where, maybe some of you guys this will catch you in the future, because we'll see what happens here. So lesson 3, don't change for her. This is one of the bigger traps that can move you from a strong masculine man to a total simp. And again, the reason why I'm prefacing this way is because I did this, when this lesson 3 hit me, and it hit me hard. This was after I was a quote unquote player, and I was the guy that no girl could lock down. I was just a total player, and I still learned a big time lesson here about don't change for her. And here, if things are going well, don't change. So just like we have here from FL MGTOW, all right, once that ring touches that finger, her V is all dried up. So if things are going well, don't change. So let's just say then where a guy is going, okay, well, things are going really, really well, and she wants to get married. So I want to acquiesce to her. She wants to get married. Things are going really well. Guys, it's a unicorn. You don't understand. They're going so well. She's not like any other girl I've ever met. So then, of course, let's change the situation we're in right now and let's get married. Again, if things are going well, don't change. So this can happen in 2 different ways. Maybe things aren't going very well. So guys like, well, things aren't going very well and she wants to get married. Well, if I propose to her, maybe things will start going better. No, if things aren't going well, don't propose. If things are going well, don't propose. If things are going well, don't change. So, in this scenario here, think of, and this happens all the time in sports. Maybe this drives you guys crazy too. So have you ever seen a football team dominate a game only to blow it by completely changing up their game plan? The game plan that was working, they change it up. Now, if you haven't, think about the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl from a few years back, where they came back from, I think it was like a 25-point deficit. Just the Falcons just dominating the game. Second half just looked completely different. Or even, it just totally different. Third, fourth quarter, totally different. And they somehow come back. You see this all the time. You see a team dominating. They're blitzing the quarterback. Then all of a sudden, fourth quarter comes, they put on a prevent defense. They play scared. They play fearful. And the other team starts coming back. Because they changed up the game plan. They changed up something that was working, and then it backfires. Backfires on them. That happens so much in sports. Drives me crazy when that happens. I mean, unless it's the other team I don't want to lose and they do that, and then I'm happy about it. But so this scenario, this is where I got bit in the. This was my biggest wake up call. This is probably, I mean, I've had a couple, but this is probably my biggest, like, monumental. Just shook me, man. It was one of those things where I didn't forget it. I don't know if I ever will forget it because it jolted me. It changed how I played the game. So, and I even put her real name. I have nothing against her. She's the girl in this picture here, and I just took this picture from college, right? Now, this is my story. So, my biggest heartbreak that I can ever, I mean, by far, my biggest heartbreak was with this girl named Jordan. And anyone that knows me, anyone that actually knows me in real life, they remember Jordan and I. And, okay, so Jordan was a year younger than me. And I met her in college. I remember the first time I saw her, I was playing volleyball at the rec center over at WSU, Washington State University. And I saw this girl, and man, it was one of those things where, like, the minute I saw her, she was like waiting to play volleyball. She comes in and plays, and I just was like, oh, I got to talk to her. And it was one of those things, again, and I'm telling you guys, at this point in my life, when I was, I think I was a junior, maybe she was a sophomore when I first met her. At that point, I had been playing the field. I was not settling down with anyone. I was not attaching my feelings to anyone. And so this girl comes in and I see her. I'm just like, you know, it's one of those things where like, oh, I'm going to get her. Oh yeah, she's going to be mine. So see her playing volleyball, whatever. Ended up finding out she had a boyfriend. So she had a boyfriend for a while, a long-term boyfriend. Anyway, we both went into the same major together, which was elementary education. Because I was going to become an elementary school teacher. She was also the same. So we weren't in the same classes for like the first year of that, but we had to do some like community service with kids. You had to spend time with kids, teach, you know, coaching, volunteering in schools or whatever. You had to do a certain amount of hours before you could be let into the school of education to become a teacher. And one of the things that her and I ended up doing together was we coached a fourth grade girls basketball team together. So we'd spend a lot of time together. Again, at this point, she had this long-term boyfriend. He was long distance. He didn't live there. This should have been my first warning flag, was because when we started to, you know, coach together, and I would just put on a little bit of my game. Just put on some of my little charm. It got to the point where I could just tell. I was like, oh, she's into me. She's into me. But she had a boyfriend. Long distance boyfriend. She would tell me about her boyfriend, her mean old boyfriend. Her mean old boyfriend, Roy. I remember this all. And so anyway, we coached that whole season together. She was still with the boyfriend. But I was like, in my head, I was like, this girl is a unicorn. This is the girl for me. I want her. Now, I did not change my lifestyle at that point. I was still gaming women. I was still just hanging out with all sorts of different women because she had a boyfriend. But I remember going, man, this girl, if she becomes single, like, I'm ready to commit. It's a unicorn, guys. It's a unicorn, man. Anyway, so she ended up at some point, they broke up. So she was single. And so we would start to go on like some dates together. And again, this is a part of don't change for her. This is one of those things where I wouldn't go out and take, you know, these other college girls to movies. I wouldn't do all these little date plans. I wouldn't like set up these little picnics to go on with any of these other girls. But with her, man, I would take her on all these dates. We never slept together, her and I. And I remember we almost did one time, and she started crying, and she was like, I haven't slept with anyone since, you know, my ex, you know, the guy that she was with for a long time. And she started crying, and like in my heart, I was just like, oh, and I was just like, oh yeah, no, let's take it slow. And all that did was solidified how much of a unicorn she was to me. Because every other girl was like easy. It was like, she's a unicorn, man. This girl, she's a unicorn. So that was one of the things that I changed up on her. It was like withholding sex type thing was something where like I wouldn't have gave a girl a second thought in those days. I would just be like, all right, hey, it was good hanging out with you, but in my head I just wouldn't hang out with her again. Nah, on to the next. Now with this girl, no, she's a unicorn, man. She's a unicorn. I was consumed with, I would spend my free time. If she was available, I'd be like, yeah, let's hang out. Let's do homework together. Another thing let's do homework together just so I could spend some time with her. So as this kind of process is going on, we ended up getting in the same classes together. Once we got into like elementary education, there was 37 women and 3 men. She was one of the women in this class. Again, I was like a player. I was just a big flirt. So with all the girls, I kind of knew that. But everyone in the classes knew. It was like the thing. Even all my fraternity brothers would always know that there was only one girl for me, and it was Jordan. And everyone in our classes together, even though we weren't dating, it was just like everyone knew. It's like, oh, just a matter of time. Adam and Jordan will be together. It's the love story. They'll end up together. Anytime we would do like little parties where we get together with our classes and there was any drinking involved, everyone knew, man, Adam and Jordan were going to be flirting it up. It was just a matter of time. It was destiny, guys. It was destiny. However, I would change the way that I played the game around her, because one of the things that she would always say, and what I understand now, again, I have zero resentment or anything towards her. But what I find out now was, she would use plausible deniability by basically being like, because I would have committed to her. It was like, oh, I would be in a relationship, but she was like, it hasn't been, I just got out of a long-term relationship. I'm just not ready. And then she would use this one on me. She'd go, and you're a player. I could never trust you. That was her thing, right? That would what she would tell me, and it was plausible deniability. What I realize now, that was just a good excuse for her to string me along. But at the time, I was like, dang, she thinks I'm a player, and she's right. I got to show her that, you changed me. I'm not a player anymore, not since I met you. I've been playing the field just to find out, just to figure out what type of woman I want, and I know it's you. So, at a certain point, it was like her and I were like unofficially together. Again, what everyone else and at this point, this is where I wasn't hanging out with other women. I wasn't sleeping around or whatever. We weren't official, but everyone knew they're together. It's basically you're together. There's just no label on it. And so it got to the point where, like I remember one night when, and again, there's so many hints and clues that I can piece together after the fact. But at the time, again, I was just like so excited. I was like, it's finally, I've went through all of these women and I finally found my unicorn. So it'd be the point where, she would invite me to things, and it was like I would go over to her place. If she was hosting a party, I would go to her party, as opposed to with every other woman, they would come to me. They would work on my schedule. They would walk over to my place rather than me doing things for her. Again, I changed for her. So this was the moment, man, everything changed was, and I don't know if anybody here, I don't know if, if anyone ends up seeing this that ever went to Washington State University, my college. They'll know Valhalla was a bar. And one night, I wanted to hang out with her again. Again, I just loved being around her. And I remember like asking her, like, hey, what are you doing? You want to hang out? And she was like, oh, I can't tonight. I have a bunch of homework to do. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I get it, whatever. But she would put me at a distance, right? Like most girls were asking me, hey, Adam, do you want to hang out? I was asking her, hey, Jordan, do you want to hang out? Again, I was changing the way I played the game for her. And so that night, I was like, okay, cool. She's doing her own thing. She lived up in the apartments, not like on campus. And so then my buddies were going out to the bar, Valhalla, for some beers. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm not hanging out with her anymore. I can go out, hang out with my buddies at the bar. Get to the bar, have a couple beers. I'm sitting in the back corner, man. It's imprinted in my skull. And again, remember, like I said, and I wasn't stupid at this point. She was giving me all the signs that she was into me, right? This was not my first experience. I'd been with many women. So I was just thinking that we were together. Like, remember, you're just a player, Adam. So I was just showing her, I'm not a player. It's just for you, right? I have no eyes for anyone else. So I was trying to show her I'm loyal and all that stuff. Again, I was kind of alluding that we were together, and like what most people thought. So anyway, I'm in Valhalla, drinking beers with my buddies, and out of the corner of my eye, across the bar, I see the back of this girl's head. I'm like, that looks like Jordan. Like, nah, she's doing homework. And then, drinking some more, and I look back over, I'm like, no, that's Jordan. She's sitting at a table. It was her and another girl and two guys. Oh, probably just a group of friends. But I remember when I saw that, and it was just two guys, two girls. She had lied to me. And I was kind of like, I got that feeling in my stomach where I was like things started to be pieced back together with me. I started thinking about all the like excuses she would give me when we went and hang out. I'm looking at her. I'm like, maybe they're just friends. Maybe. But it's weird that she lied to me about why she couldn't hang out. You know, she has a bunch of homework to do. Anyway, guys, this is then I see her turn. Oh yeah, I see her. That's her face. I see the side of her face. Why is she turning? Her and this guy randomly, no guy I'd ever seen before. They start making out. They start kissing right there. And man, guys, I'm telling you, my heart sunk. My heart sunk. I was heartbroken proof up until that point. I'd read The Rational Male already. I'd read so many books. I was gaming women. Again, I thought I found my unicorn. And so I see her start kissing, whatever, she lied to me, start kissing this guy. Things started to come back to me where I started to remember, like, you know, seeing her ex-boyfriend randomly at some of her parties. And I'm kind of like wondering, why was he still there and all this stuff? I started to realize then, you know, I started to hear from some of her friends. They were kind of like looking at me like, yeah, sorry, Adam, you know, later on telling me like this had been going on for a long time. They kind of knew the situation, man. So, but that moment changed so much for me because, again, I had changed everything that I knew worked with women. I changed everything to play differently with her. So when I saw that happen, man, I was, you know, basically sick to my stomach. Stopped drinking my beer. I just walked up. I walked up behind her as I was leaving, and I just, you know, gently put my hand on her back. You know, just rested on there as she turns to look at me. And I just, you know, kind of whispered in her ear. I just said, have fun with him. And I just turned, walked away, and left, went straight back home to my room, loaded up my bong, took a couple major rips, and then I just texted every girl on my phone, man. I went player status like insanely hard after that. I was just like washing my memory. Never again will I be played or deceived like that. So, oh man, that girl, I'm telling you guys, I would have married her. I would have married her. Now, not after this. The one thing I will give myself credit for was after that happened, I never again allowed myself to feel anything for her. And it wasn't hostile. We were still in classes together. It was awkward, of course. But it was just one of those things where I just like, I learned, and it just totally wiped my, you know, it took that one thing that she had that I thought was so different from every other woman, and it just made me see, it took my unicorn goggles off with her. It was a tough end of the year, I guess, like having class with her every day. But man, that woke me up. That woke me up to that. I will say was my biggest lesson. That's one that if you guys are still in the game of dating, that there will be certain women that you're doing everything right, so they're super into you, and then they're gonna be like, "But I know you're a player." So then in your heart, you're gonna go, "Well, now I got to show her I'm not a player," and then you play it differently with her. You change, and then she loses respect for you. She moves on. This is what a lot of guys will mention, that, you know, the alpha guys that get married, they will become, she'll change him basically into a Betamon guy. She'll get him to change. And again, guys, what we have to be careful of is that we wear it under the illusion of like we basically say like, she was the girl that made me a better man. I changed my ways for her, right? It's that noble sense that we trick ourselves into thinking. Like, to me, this girl, I was just like, had so much fun just being like, I don't need any other woman, man. I'm so excited. Like, wow, she changed me. She made me a better man. She made me go from, player to wanting to be monogamous. She was going to be the one to save me, right? That's what we can, as guys, we can trick ourselves into. And that, guys, is the biggest lesson that, and it still happens, from time to time when I'm, playing it really well with a girl. Like, if I don't know exactly what I'm doing and I ease up, or I'm like, oh, I can do something a little differently this time. She seems different every single time. It bites me in the butt, or her attraction fades, and I can kind of just see that now. So lesson number 3, man, I learned that one, and I would say I was still definitely a simp then, because again, I thought that I had found, and thank goodness so. And apparently she's married now, and someone just told me that she had a kid recently, and I really wish her the best. Again, I thought she was a great person, um, but it doesn't change the intersexual dynamics. But that's one of those things where thank goodness I found this out before getting married to her. Because again, if I married this girl, I would have played it like she was the prize, because I thought she was. I thought all of these other women were nothing. She was the one I was waiting for. She's the prize. So again, I would have gone into that relationship with the mindset, excuse me again, that she was the prize. I would have treated her that way, and then she would have lost respect for me. She would have started drip feeding me sex or whatever else I wanted, and just completely controlled me. And I probably would have thought that's what I wanted. I would have been happily like, oh, anything for you. Man. Woo! Good old Jordan. I do wish her the best. I don't know if there's anyone watching that knows me in my personal life, but they'll remember this whole saga. Adam and Jordan, the one girl that could tame me. And then I found out, wasn't the case. Was not the case. I don't blame her looking back on it, based on what I know now, right? Again, I don't blame women for any of this stuff. It's society that is to blame. It's everything we're told that's a lie is to blame. If we just grew up knowing exactly what female nature is like, we knew exactly what to expect, and no one told us any of the lies, then we would just be like, oh, I get it. No problem. So again, I don't pin this on, women or whatever. It's society, and bad information we've been given to not be able to play the game realistically. We believe there's this thing called love, that if you fall in love, nothing can break that. And it's just not the truth. Just not the truth. Don't forget, subscribe, like, comment, share the video, but definitely subscribe.